Today, we're immersing ourselves in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, a really significant spiritual figure.
Indeed. From the 19th century.
Yeah.
But his interactions, they still offer so much insight today.
Definitely. We've got some biographical excerpts, and we're focusing on his relationships with, four devotees: Prankrishna Mukherjee, Adhar Tarak Nath Mukherjee, and Vaikuntha Nath Sanyo.
In this deep dive, it's not just about, listing facts from history.
No, not at all.
It's really a chance to grasp the essence of spiritual teaching, the whole guru-disciple dynamic through these very personal stories.
Exactly. And what really jumps out, I think, is the sheer variety of people drawn to him. You've got Prankrishna, a family man working professionally, but also deep into Vedanta.
Right, that core Hindu philosophy about reality.
Yeah. Then there's Adhar Sen, a deputy magistrate, quite a prominent position.
A man of the world, you could say.
And then Tarak, a younger guy, married, but facing family pushback on his spiritual path.
That's a common struggle, isn't it?
And finally, Vaikuntha, who actually started out pretty skeptical before finding his way to Sri Ramakrishna.
It really shows the breadth of his influence, doesn't it? How his teachings resonated across different backgrounds.
Absolutely. It highlights that universal appeal.
And, each relationship lets us see a different side of Sri Ramakrishna's wisdom, his amazing ability to connect with people right where they were.
Okay, so where should we start? Prankrishna.
Let's start with Prankrishna. He seems to have had this really warm, affectionate bond with the master.
Yeah, the biography mentions Sri Ramakrishna visiting his house for a festival, and that nickname, Fat Brahmin.
Yes. Affectionate, informal. It says a lot about their comfort level.
It really does. It sort of transcends that formal guru-disciple image. It feels very human.
Very. And there's that specific meeting, January 1st, 1883, at Dakshinaswar.
Oh, right, with Rakal, Narendra, and Mahendra there too, and the incident with the sweets.
Yes. Sri Ramakrishna is eating, and he makes this comment connecting the simple act to receiving immortal assets from the mother, knowledge, love, discrimination.
Renunciation. It's fascinating how he links the mundane, eating sweets, with these profound spiritual gifts.
That's classic Sri Ramakrishna, isn't it? Seeing the transcendent in the ordinary. It's the Divine Mother's grace, even in a sweet.
And then it gets even more unusual when a child comes in.
And he tries to hide the sweets like a child himself.
And then actually enters Samadhi while doing it. It's quite a scene.
It really is. Samadhi, that deep meditative state, union with the divine. It shows that Sahajabhava, that natural, unpretentious state he embodied.
So out of this state, he starts teaching.
Exactly. He talks about God being both formless and with form. And that deep devotion, that spiritual ecstasy is what allows you to perceive his matchless form.
He also shares something quite personal, doesn't he, about breaking his teeth?
Yes. Apparently, as a consequence of not following the Divine Mother's guidance to stay in a devotional mood.
Wow. That's a stark example of his own commitment, his own struggles even.
It underlines how seriously he took that inner guidance. And he talks about how his perception of divine forms deepened over time, first with physical eyes, then later in trance.
A progression in realization.
Seems so. Then later, there's that conversation with Prankrishna and Mahendra. He criticizes people who talk about high knowledge, but don't live it.
Right, who talk glibly but live on a lower plane. A reminder that just knowing isn't enough.
It's a crucial point in many traditions, aligning inner understanding with outer action.
He uses that analogy too about the Ganges.
Oh yeah, the closer you get, the cooler it feels.
Yeah.
A beautiful way to describe the peace that comes with drawing nearer to God.
Simple but effective. And the other one about the thread.
The thread with ragged fibers not fitting through the needle's eye.
Perfect illustration of how even small attachments can block progress.
Very vivid. Then fast forward a bit to April 1884. There's a shift in his perception described.
Ah, yes, where he starts seeing God in everyone.
Narayana in the pious man, Narayana in the hypocrite, Narayana in the wicked.
That's a huge step, isn't it? Seeing the divine equally in all.
It suggests reaching a state of, perfection in knowledge, perhaps. Seeing beyond the surface to the underlying divine reality.
A truly non-dual perspective taking hold. Okay, let's move on to Adhar Sen, the deputy magistrate.
Right. His first visit is quite touching. He brings a friend who's grieving.
And Sri Ramakrishna is in Samadhi when they arrive.
Yes, that's a powerful tone. Then he comes out of it, thinks about life being transitory, comforts the friend.
And tells him to surrender to God. It shows such compassion and immediate spiritual guidance.
Absolutely. Then there's the private advice he gives Adhar. Very practical stuff.
reminding him his position is God's grace, not to forget him.
And that life's temporary, like working away from your real home. It's about perspective.
He uses another great analogy here, the goldsmith.
Ah, yes. The determination needed for intricate work, applying that same focus to spiritual practice.
It makes it relatable, and the power of God's name.
To destroy ignorance, a core teaching, stated so simply.
I also like the comparison of spiritual effort to working towards a pension.
Yeah, the initial struggle leads to later ease and enjoyment. It acknowledges the effort, but promises a reward.
It makes sense. And Adhar starts visiting more and more frequently, right? Almost daily.
Yes, and Sri Ramakrishna starts visiting Adhar's home too. Calls them little festivals.
And even says Adhar's house is one of his own resorts or sacred spots. That indicates a really deep bond.
Definitely. It shows the spiritual energy building between them. There's that story too about Adhar feeling low because the master hadn't visited.
And Sri Ramakrishna just shows up that evening.
It's like a direct response to that sincere longing. Beautiful illustration.
But there's also that time Adhar misses visits because of school meetings.
Right. And Sri Ramakrishna is quite direct with him then.
He basically says worldly things, schools, meetings, jobs are ultimately unreal compared to God.
And reminds him death is always near. The need for prayer is urgent.
Adhar feels remorseful, says his parlor lost its savor without him.
And that really touches Sri Ramakrishna. He blesses Adhar and Mahendra, calling them his own people. A profound moment of connection.
But then there's the incident with the vice chairmanship.
Ah, yes. Adhar wants the post in the Calcutta municipality.
And Sri Ramakrishna prays to Kali, but has this thought.
That Adhar is seeking trifles instead of focusing on knowledge and devotion.
And Adhar doesn't get the job. Seems like a clear lesson.
It does. A lesson about priorities, about not getting lost in worldly ambition, especially after connecting with such a spiritual source.
Sri Ramakrishna advises him afterwards, doesn't he? About not relying on worldly people.
Yes, and uses his own example of refusing temple wages you serve one master. Powerful stuff on detachment.
It's all building towards something quite sad, though. The biography mentions frequent warnings about death.
Very frequent warnings about the transience of life, directed at Adhar.
Warnings that, tragically, weren't fully heeded. He died in a riding accident.
Yes, despite all the pointers.
Yeah.
And Sri Ramakrishna's grief was apparently very deep, showing how much he genuinely cared.
A stark reminder, as you said, of life's fragility and the wisdom in focusing on the eternal.
Indeed. Now, shall we talk about Tarak Mukherjee?
Yes, Tarak from Belgharia. Younger, married, a householder, but spiritually inclined.
But facing family opposition, which is a key element here. Sri Ramakrishna seemed to hold him in high regard.
He warns him about the usual dangers, lust, and wealth. Standard spiritual advice, really.
True, but always relevant. The core issue, though, was that family resistance.
Right. Tarak couldn't visit sometimes because of it. And Sri Ramakrishna addresses this head-on with that hypothetical.
About the mother forbidding visits and threatening a curse.
Exactly. And Sri Ramakrishna's response is incredibly strong. He calls such a parent a veritable evil genius.
It sounds harsh, maybe, but it shows the absolute priority he placed on seeking God if something directly obstructs that path.
It has to be resisted.
In that specific context, yes. He justifies it, using examples like Parada, the gopis, Prahlada, all figures who chose devotion over duty or family ties when forced to choose.
But he adds that crucial caveat.
Right. Obey in all other things, just not when it means turning from God. It's about ultimate loyalty.
There's also that interesting physical detail, feeling the weight of Tarak's hand.
Yes, and sensing some remaining crookedness or obstacle within him, which he said would go away with prayer and regular visits, shows his subtle perception.
Very intuitive, and then the most remarkable part.
Placing his foot on Tarak's chest while in Samadhi.
A sign of immense grace, a direct transmission of energy.
Absolutely. And then as Tarak leaves, Sri Ramakrishna sees, what was it? A flame of light.
Yeah, like a flame leaving himself and following Tarak. Just extraordinary. Speaks volumes about Tarak's potential.
Truly, a powerful image. You know, thinking about that flame, it makes you wonder about those moments of grace or potential we might sense in our own lives or in others.
It really does. Okay, finally, let's turn to Vaikuntha Nath Sanyal.
His journey is interesting. Initial religious feeling, then skepticism.
Which many people can relate to, I think.
Definitely. And he meets a Vedanta teacher who points him towards Sri Ramakrishna.
But he hesitates at first.
Yes, there's some reluctance.
Yeah.
But when he finally goes, The impact is immediate.
He feels this unprecedented peace and blessedness just being in Sri Ramakrishna's presence.
Which leads him to visit more and more. It shows the power of just being near such a presence.
Then there's that conversation about the picture. Sri Gauranga's curtain party.
Right. Sri Ramakrishna points out their divine emotion, their bhakti.
But Vaikuntha, because of his background in Nadia and knowing Vaishnavas there were often from lower classes, dismisses them as vulgar people.
Oof. And Sri Ramakrishna's reaction.
A strong rebuke. He won't stand for that kind of social prejudice when it comes to genuine devotion.
Shows his deep respect for sincere feeling, regardless of social standing. Good for him.
Then the really fascinating part, the discussion about Sri Ramakrishna being called an incarnation.
Sri Ramakrishna mentions others call him that.
And Vaikuntha says it's no great compliment.
Which is startling. What was his reasoning?
He felt an incarnation was only a partial manifestation of God. But he saw Sri Ramakrishna as well as the great Shiva himself.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
He even says he can't meditate on Shiva because Sri Ramakrishna's face always appears instead.
That's incredibly profound. It shows the depth of his personal realization and connection.
And how does Sri Ramakrishna react to that?
With astonishment, but also satisfaction. And then that incredibly humble statement.
That he wasn't equal to even a hair on Vaikuntha's body?
Classic humility. The biography suggests Vaikuntha accepting him as the highest ideal actually brought Sri Ramakrishna peace.
Like it confirmed something for him about the disciple's understanding.
Exactly. It seems it was one way he gauged where a disciple truly was, spiritually, their recognition of his, or rather the divine's, nature through him.
So looking back at all four Prankrishna, Adhar, Tarak, Vaikuntha, it's quite a spectrum.
It really is. And through them, we see these recurring themes. The nature of devotion, living spiritually amidst worldly life.
The absolute necessity of detachment, the power of the guru-disciple bond.
And just how many different paths there are to understanding.
And underpinning it all is Sri Ramakrishna's incredible ability to tailor his guidance.
No one-size-fits-all approach. He met each person exactly where they were. Very skillful, very compassionate.
Truly inspiring. Which kind of leads to a final thought, perhaps, for you listening.
Which of these stories, these interactions, these teachings resonates the most with you?
Yeah, with your own sense of spirituality, or maybe just your search for meaning. And how do you navigate that balance?
Between worldly duties and, spiritual longing.
It's definitely something to ponder long after we finish talking here. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.